Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to share with you two different ways to make arepas. I first tried arepas when I was living in Honduras and I visited a Venezuelan restaurant and I tried these for the first time and I fell in love with them. So I'm going to show you two different ways that you can make this the traditional way as well as a little modified version that I like to do at home. So for both of these, you're going to need pre-cooked corn flour. So I'm using Maseca, but the yellow pack that I'm showing you here, this is the traditional flour that they use in Venezuela. So to a bowl I've added a half a cup of corn flour, bit of salt to taste and some water. I'm going to mix this all together and just allow the corn flour to rehydrate. I was doing a lot of stretching here. I'm not sure why I didn't just get closer to the bowl, but you can just mix everything together with a spoon or your hands. I don't like using my hands, that's why I'm using a spoon to mix it all together just to make sure all of the flour is covered with water so that it can rehydrate properly. And it will just come together as a nice ball, and once it's less sticky and mushy looking, then I'll go in with my hands. For the dough, you want a malleable consistency to work with, so you don't want it to be too sticky and you don't want it to be too dry. You need to make sure that the corn flour is properly rehydrated before you start making the corn pockets for the arepas. And I'm going to list in the description box the measurements that I use to make these traditional arepas corn pockets. I don't know what to call them, pockets. At this point, what you need to do is use your hands to flatten the dough. So you're going to be using your fingers as well as the palm of your hands to flatten this. And you might notice around the circumference of this dough that it's cracking a bit. All you need to do is use your fingers to smooth out those cracks. This was the thickness of the arepa. If you want it flatter than this, then you just make it flatter. But as you flatten the dough, you will notice that the arepa will crack around the edges. And this might be an indication that the dough is too dry. So if you really can't smooth out those cracks with your fingers, you might need to add some water to the dough to make it a little bit more soft and easy to work with. Altogether, I made 3 arepas using the half a cup of corn flour, but the amount of arepas you make will depend on how thick you make your arepas. Later on, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can flatten the dough, but for now, I'm going to cook this first batch so that you can see what they look like. You're going to cook these for a couple of minutes on each side. The cooking time will vary depending on the thickness of your arepas, so I'm not going to actually list a specific time for how long you cook these because the heat and the thickness will vary. Also, I like to cook the sides of these if I make them thick. If they're thinner, I don't worry about cooking the sides of them. This is what the cooked arepa looked like, and what I'm going to do is cut into a couple of these so that you can see the inside. The only little thing that I don't like about these corn pockets is that you get like a raw finish on the inside. So the outside is thoroughly cooked, but the inside tends to be quite doughy. So that's why I've got a modified version, which I'm going to show you now. To make the modified version, you're going to need corn flour, gram flour, and this is a mix of chickpeas and yellow split peas, salt, and baking powder. And then you're going to mix this all together because you want the baking powder to be properly distributed in the flour mix. And then you're going to make a well in the center and add your water. You're going to add the water gradually because you don't want to form any lumps in the flour. Gram flour has got this tendency of just getting really lumpy, so you have to be careful with the mixing process just to minimize or prevent actually any lumps being in the final arepas. And I find the best way to do that is to start with a well in the center and then just gradually pull flour from the side and then add it in until I have a complete dough. So this is what the mixed dough is going to look like, and at this point it's actually quite sticky, but don't worry about it. We're going to leave this to rest for 10 minutes and the water will rehydrate the corn flour and it'll be less sticky and easy to work with. So this was the dough after 10 minutes. It's still malleable. I can make indents with my fingers, but it wasn't sticky. So I have two methods of how I make these. I'm not sure if these are official methods, but this is what I do at home, and I want to show you both methods so that you can use whichever one works best for you. For the first method, I start off by flattening the dough between the palms of my hands, and then I use predominantly the palm of my hand below my thumb to flatten the dough while turning it. I think just watching the video is probably a lot clearer than me trying to explain it, but I'm using the palm of my hand below my thumb to flatten and then using the other hand to turn the dough at the same time. I used my finger to smooth any cracks on the edges, and when I was happy with it, I just placed it on a piece of parchment paper. For method 2, you're going to start off by rolling the dough into a ball, and this time you're going to use your fingers to flatten the dough. So as you can see, I'm using my fingers to pass the dough from side to side, and each time I am using the pads of my fingers to flatten the dough. I am including some real-time clips so that you guys can see how quickly I'm passing the dough between my hands, but also so that you can see that I'm just using the pads of my fingers to flatten the dough, and then if I have any cracks on the side, just using my fingers to smooth those out. You can also see here the thickness of the arepa. If you want it to be thicker than this, then you wouldn't flatten it as much, and if you want it to be thinner, then you can flatten it some more. But I noticed I was able to get these a lot bigger when I used this method because I have quite small hands. The other method is just a little bit more tricky, but this one I get like a big size arepa. For these ones, I cooked them for 1.5 minutes to 1 minute 45 seconds on each side, and there wasn't really a need to cook the sides for these ones, as you can see here. These were the cooked arepas, and I kept them in a bowl with a tea towel in there just to keep them nice and moist until I was ready to use them. So I'm going to cut into these ones so that you can see what inside looked like, and also so you can see a comparison between the modified version with the original. So as you can see, I have a nice clean knife. The dough is cooked, the arepas is cooked all the way through. There's not a doughy center like you'd get with the plain corn flour version. So I'm obviously a big fan of the modified version, and these arepa pockets are really good as burger buns. So if you're gluten-free and you just want to save some money, because gluten-free buns are really expensive, gluten-free bread in general is really expensive, this is my go-to for like a burger bun substitute. So these are my modified version. I'm going to show you the side-by-side comparison of the two. In my right hand I have the corn flour version, and here in my left hand is the modified version. Both are really good. Let me know if you try either of these in the comments section below, whether as arepas or as burger buns. So onto the fillings. I'm going to share with you a few filling options that you can use for these, and for this I'm using azuki beans, a bit of bell pepper, onion, chili, oregano, salt. And in Honduras, I believe they use like these red beans, but I can't remember what the beans are called, but they looked like kidney beans, but they weren't quite kidney beans. So I just decided to use some azuki beans instead. So you're going to add all of your ingredients to a food processor and just blend it slightly. You're not trying to get this into a puree. You just want it to be a bit soft. And as I'm doing the voiceover for this, I think this is more Honduran inspired than Venezuela now, with the beans at least. Because I remember we would puree the beans and then have it with like tortillas. So yes, you're going to add everything to the food processor, blend it slightly, and then we're just going to leave this to reduce on the cooker for a few minutes. The restaurant served the arepas with the most amazing garlic sauce, and I'm going to try and recreate it with 4 ingredients. So I have cashews, garlic, salt, and mint. You can, if you're not keen on mint, use coriander instead. But I'm going to use mint for this. But I think I might have used coriander. I'm going to blend this all together. And I left one of the garlic out because I thought, maybe it's going to be too strong. But then I decided to add the garlic and an extra tablespoon of water. And this was the sauce. This sauce is so good. Even just as a salad sauce, it is really nice. The last thing to do now is to bring everything together. So we've got the beans, that delicious garlic sauce. I've got some plantain and avocado, and I've got the 2 types of arepas here that I'm just going to fill with all of the fillings. If you don't want to make the beans filling, you can just add another filling of your choice to it. To this one, I'm adding some ackee and chickpeas and plantain and avocado, but just use what kind of filling you want. And this was really nice. I didn't add the garlic sauce because I kind of thought it might just throw the taste off too much. So this was a second option with an ackee and chickpea filling. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if you are not subscribed, do subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know exactly when I share a new video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.